The scene shifts to 8 years after the events in God Valley. Ginny and Kuma have now grown much more, still running their family church while helping the local people in many ways. With his ability, all the pain that the elderly in the village were suffering was drawn out. And they simply thought it was a miracle that Kuma brought. Because he always helped others like this. He was very much loved. And some people had even known Kuma's parents before. After the whole family disappeared, she was really worried. But seeing the child from that year return and live like this now, she felt much more at ease. It seems the secret about the bloodline in his body is still hidden. And everyone believes that the young man's parents must be very proud. When their son has become such a wonderful pastor, an old man asked if Kuma could perform miracles on a normal day. And upon hearing this, Ginny immediately got angry and flatly refused, saying that healing could only take place on Sundays. You old folks don't even pay. And you're still demanding. She scolded them a lot. But no one looked sad because they were used to this personality. The girl is now nicknamed Fierce Ginny, and though her mouth is sharp, she is extremely beautiful. All the boys in the village come to try and pursue her. But they see that she already has Kuma. So surely no one will be able to win her over. Hearing this, Ginny blushed and further affirmed her feelings for the younger boy. The old folks looked triumphant, saying that they had lived to this age, so of course they would understand. They also supported the feelings of the two. But in the end, Ginny chased them away. Kuma is very compassionate and lets the old folks sit and play for as long as they want. By the afternoon, everyone wanted to pay the two. But they had no money. Here they had to pay almost all of their earnings to the celestial dragons. The newly crowned king was also greedy. So life became even more difficult. King Bekori was known for being cold and heartless. If someone was sick and couldn't pay tribute, they would be thrown into prison. And the only outcome then was death. This person served under the celestial dragons. So the elderly here could hardly live in peace. If they didn't want to be arrested, they had to keep their bodies healthy to work. So every time Kuma healed them, they were extremely grateful. He smiled and said this was what he should do. And he invited everyone to come next week. And he would continue to treat them as he did today. Everyone was overjoyed because this could prolong their lives a little. But few knew what Kuma had to endure to create miracles. His devil fruit could push other people's pain out. But that pain didn't disappear. Instead, it would have to be absorbed into the body of the kind pastor himself. For a long time Kuma had hidden this, enduring the pain himself every night. Every time this happened, Ginny had to sit outside. She couldn't help at all. So she was just as pained as the younger boy. This is also why they can only do this once a week to allow Kuma's body to recover in time. Bearing all the pain of others, the pastor's body showed many wounds. Despite this, Kuma still tried to endure so that his sister outside would worry less. Ginny cried streams outside. She could only tend to her brother's wounds. She wondered why Kuma could do this to his body every week. It was beyond a human's endurance. He smiled and said it was okay. Pain and suffering would not disappear on their own if no one accepted it. He himself was used to enduring. And the most important thing was that helping others made him feel happy. He also had to apologize to Ginny for making her worry, promising to try to train to be stronger so that pains like today would no longer be a concern. After recovering a bit, the young man invited his sister to eat. And at the mention of food, Ginny became overjoyed. Kuma suggested that if it was sunny tomorrow, they could go somewhere to play. And she immediately agreed, saying that grilling meat or catching fish was also a good idea. Time passed until Kuma was 22 years old. And the two siblings still lived together harmoniously and very happily. Ginny was 4 years older than Kuma and had reached marriageable age. Seeing a rainbow outside, she had an idea, so she asked Kuma to marry her, which shocked him greatly, although he liked her very much. Kuma was afraid that the past would repeat itself. He carried the buccaneer bloodline, and if it were discovered again, his future wife and children would also be implicated. If he married Ginny, he would certainly be very happy. But no one could guarantee whether their future lives would encounter misfortune. Rejected, Ginny was very angry but could not say anything. Today's newspaper reported on the Revolutionary Army, led by Dragon, whom Kuma greatly admired. He had instigated protests in many countries to help civilians. And Kuma was sure that he was a true hero. And one day, he also wanted to go out to sea and contribute in the same way. To help others like the warrior of liberation, Nika. At this moment, some friends came to visit with gifts. These three people all liked Ginny very much. So whenever they caught a large haul of fish, they would bring it to curry favor. She was angry, so she threw the basin directly at Kuma's head, calling him an idiot because they had endured so much together. Yet he was still afraid of people encountering misfortune. After a while, a major event occurred in the land where they lived. The elderly people, whom the two of them had often helped, were now arrested by soldiers because they were no longer able to work. Just then, the kind young man arrived with the intention of saving everyone. The soldiers thought he was just a pastor, so they were not afraid. They even threatened that interfering with the work of the royal army was a capital offense. Seeing the elderly people crying for help, Kuma could not stand by. He did not want anyone to become a slave like him, so he actively attacked. With the power of the devil fruit, the young man easily knocked everyone away. Taking that opportunity, everyone ran towards Kuma for protection. The remaining soldiers had to face the anger of the pastor. He created a giant hand and threw it at them, and its pressure blew all the soldiers away. The next day, the current king received news that the policy of arresting people had been strongly opposed. Fearing that the entire kingdom would resist, he did not care and devised a plan to separate the dissenters from the kingdom. Gradually, people in other areas also viewed them as a threat. Thus, no one else opposed the arrest of people in the southern land where Kuma lived. After a while, Ginny's group was imprisoned. They were now considered outlaws. Originally, only Kuma was supposed to be arrested, but the others could not stand the soldiers' actions, so they intervened and were also arrested. However, everyone smiled because they were locked up together like this again. Kuma felt resentful that the southern region was considered a land of slaves. This country was becoming more corrupt than ever. The gap between the rich and the poor was too wide, not to mention the extremely harsh discrimination. King Bekwari was a puppet of the celestial dragons, and the policies he enacted were all plans of the most powerful people in the world. Rebelling to save this country meant going against the world government. Suddenly, at this moment, the Revolutionary Army arrived to liberate everyone. They were incredibly strong and quickly captured the king. Surprisingly, the leader of this liberation army was Ivankov, along with the famous revolutionary dragon. The slave policy was thus abolished, making the people happy. News of Kuma causing a disturbance reached Dragon. His friend was sure that everyone would love Kuma when they saw him. Meeting his brother again after so many years, Ginny was overjoyed and also shocked when the person accompanying him was the famous hero. Both immediately invited him to join the Revolutionary Army. To change this world together in the way they were already doing, the owner of the liberating hands naturally agreed, followed by Ginny and other friends. In the following period, they split up into different countries, where people were oppressed by the government. To liberate everyone, the era of pirates also began from that moment. Like a great fire in response to the tragedy at Ohara, the Revolutionary Army, led by three extremely powerful individuals, created a notorious organization worldwide. Today, the commander discussed the current lack of funds for the Revolutionary Army to purchase weapons, as mercenaries. They would overthrow cruel kings and bring freedom. To achieve this, a large force is needed. So new recruits must be trained in weapon use and combat. Dragon wants the Revolutionary Army to cover the entire world, so that whenever people need them, they will appear to help. He used to be in the Navy, but he couldn't find any justice there. That's why Dragon wants to create true justice with warriors who want to liberate. One day, Kuma visited his hometown. The elders still gathered at the church, so they were very happy to see the kind pastor return. Their lives are now very peaceful after being liberated. Then, another 8 years passed, and Ginny was now a captain leading people in battle in a place far from Kuma. Today, she seemed very happy because she was about to meet her beloved again. However, an urgent message was then reported to Dragon, saying that the enemy had captured Ginny. This was a huge shock to Kuma, making him worried.